wait. No. That's good. That's good. And you're saying that just is included in NetSuite.
Yeah, absolutely. It's core to the product.
Welcome to ERP on Tap, your steady flow of everything you want to know about NetSuite and Acumatica. The podcast where we dive into practical tips, expert insights, and real-world examples, exploring the tools, tips, and tricks you need to make your business processes flow like never before.
Hey, greetings, everyone. I'm Jonathan McKee.
I'm Ikra Harrison.
And thanks for joining us. We're really looking forward to our show this week because we have a NetSuite consultant bringing the type of experience you want in your corner. And for those of you checking out NetSuite, or maybe you already have NetSuite, I think you're going to find this helpful because he's going to be talking about the most overlooked and underused functionality that comes with most NetSuite solutions already.
Yeah, I'm super excited for our guest because I regularly pick his brain to just kind of talk through some of my own issues or some of the things that I've seen with the clients that I work with. And it's just nice to have somebody who can just kind of put a different take on it. So I'm really excited to hear what he has to say today.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you talked to him about your issues, Ikra. That's really good. Travis, can I talk to you about my issues?
You know, only one therapist at a time. Okay,
Oh, that's right.
like the coworker turned therapist situation.
I can't wait to ask him that. I'm just gonna be like, I just want to just lay back on the couch and let him know all my issues because I have plenty.
Well, then he's gonna have to do this for everybody, Jonathan. I'm gonna need you to. No, okay, we'll have to work that arrangement out outside.
We'll work it out. No, but this is cool because you're right, Ikra. He's the type of guy who is a problem solver, and this is funny because he's actually talking about those types of things that I find it humorous when you own some sort of technology or you have something and you don't even realize it had a feature that you could have been using all along. He always will be like, "Oh, don't you know you could have done that?" So I don't know, Ikra, has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, and I think it also plays to you're more in the sales side and I'm more on the implementation side, right? So it's like also like little tips and tricks that you can kind of use to kind of bring into the sales cycle, and then things like where I'm like, oh, I never even thought about that, and just kind of incorporate that in my implementations next time I have a conversation about, banking or anything, any of the other tips and tricks.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I remember I had this car for almost 20 years, this Nissan Pathfinder, and it was this great car. And because we live at the base of the Sierra Mountains, we can get to Tahoe in less than 2 hours. So I'm always going up and down this hill. I probably embarrassingly could tell you that I probably had that car 6 years before I even realized it had this feature that I accidentally hit a button and all of a sudden this overdrive turned off, and it literally is this overdrive shut off button. And when I turned off, it went, and I was heading down the hill. And the one thing, if you're ever heading down a hill, those of you guys that have diesels love a thing called an exhaust brake, because an exhaust brake will slow you down without having to use your brakes. Well, here I am, and it was slowing down my car without having to use the brakes. It was wonderful. I love this. It was a click of a button, and I never even knew I had the button. That's the kind of stuff that Travis does all the time. He'll be like, oh, don't you know? All you got to do is hit this button and you have this. So I love that. He's going to bring us a bunch of those today.
I know. And on the topic of cars, on features that I guess, you don't maybe know what they're supposed to do. Turns out if you push two of like either the unlock and the lock button at the same time, it brings all of my windows down, like every single one. And I'm like, what is the purpose of this? So maybe he'll have the answers there too, because sometimes you might just not even realize that there's something that you're using and there's a purpose for it. But
well, that sounds like, and being a Florida girl, I mean, if you're
I can't have my windows open.
I thought maybe when we cruise down the A1A, you gotta roll all the windows down.
I live in the rainforest, Jonathan.
Okay. Well, I just, just like people think all us Californians live on the beach. I just assumed, you were cruising.
I know, right? I think it's okay. Healthy stereotypes.
There you go. I mean, if Vanilla Ice taught us anything. So, well, I'll tell you what, it's time to introduce our guest. We've been telling you about him. So I'm so excited, listeners. This guy has spent the last 20 years basically helping us, and he's been helping businesses implement enterprise solutions, connector systems, get real results from their tech investments. So he's led major projects across industries, from manufacturing to, name it. I personally worked with him for over 4 years here at Protelo. He's one of our top go-to resources who knows what it takes to turn complex systems into smooth running operations. Let's get to it. a guy who helps customers bridge the gap between software and real business needs, making sure teams get the full value out of NetSuite. Let's bring him on now.
Ew.
Travis, great to have you here. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought you were going to open with like California Dreaming now that we've talked about Windows Down.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Well, good,
It
man.
looks like Travis isn't the only guest we have joining us today. Who's that?
Ah, yes. That is one of our labs. That's the Silver Lab. She's sleeping at the moment, as you can see.
I'm jealous.
I know.
Yeah.
That's it. She is beautiful. Now, you've told me before about hunting and stuff. Is she one of your hunting dogs?
She is. Yep. We bird hunt, and we're typically out on the river in the fall and the winter, and she's out there with us along with our other black lab. So
she's tuckered out right now.
Yeah. Did you guys go hunting this morning?
Nope, no hunting this time of year, but they do enjoy being outside and playing. So the other one's awesome. Down off of their sleep area there to the right of me on the floor sleeping. So
you have two back there? Talk about camouflage. That's perfect for hunting.
That's awesome. She's actually right against the wall. She's all white.
I know.
You can't see her. She's just blended straight in. So. No, this is great. Well, Travis,
they're like children for sure. We treat them as family.
Well, truthfully, we are super excited about this. Mm-hmm. Honestly, both Ikra and I have had experiences where we've chatted with you and you've helped us out. And sometimes it's stuff that's like in plain sight. And that's the topic today. You and I, as you remember, we're talking a few weeks ago, and you made a comment to me. And that comment really triggered this podcast. You were talking about the functionality of something in NetSuite. And honestly, I don't even remember what it was. But you said almost as an aside, oh yeah, and so many customers don't even know this functionality exists.
Yeah.
So I showed them this. And whatever you started to talk about, I go, wait. Because I didn't even care about the rest of the conversation. I'm like, wait, how many times does that happen where you say, oh yeah, and people don't even know about it? And I asked you and you were like, tons. That happens all the time. So I'm like, okay, this is a topic. So after much coercing, convincing, and arm twisting, we have you here, and we're super excited about this, Travis, because to be able to find out that there's functionality in NetSuite that comes in many of the modules we have already, we want to hear about it. So thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Super excited.
Yeah, I really especially like the door lock key scenario. We just, as friends of our family, we were all together, and the ladies were talking about how they can go somewhere and keep their vehicle running but lock it right when they exit. And if you have a spare key, you can just close the door and then turn the key and it'll lock all the doors, so that then you don't have to worry about trying to lock it like with your remote or whatever, and then it won't work. But if you put that key in the door and you turn it, it'll lock all the doors and you can walk away with it still running. But a nice option in rural America.
I don't even know if mine has the key.
It might not.
Travis can not only solve your NetSuite problems, he can also solve all your car problems. So
exactly.
But it helps, right? In extreme weather, when you're trying to keep it cool, or in the winter, you're trying to keep it warm, you just got to run in somewhere. So
for concerts, that's where I feel like I could use it.
I'm super excited. My remote, we have a little Toyota, and I read somewhere, like I watched a YouTube video literally on features that you don't even know it has, because I wasn't told it had this, but if I click like the door lock 3 times, it'll auto start the car. And like you just said, if you want it to start cooling in a hot summer, it gets to be, 100, 105 here in Sacramento, I can have it start cooling, 5 minutes before I get to the car. So.
Right.
Like, I'm going to try that. I don't have a Toyota, but who knows what kind of unknown features we have.
You never know, Well, Travis, our listeners are very excited. They're poised and ready for you to share some of these hidden gems in NetSuite. What's your first one?
Oh, let's see. So when we were talking the other day, it really did make me think about the payments module. For those who aren't familiar with it, or if you see in your menu there when you're logged into NetSuite up there at the top, Jonathan was just talking about these features and functionality, and the payments menu. If you see it in your login, but you've ignored it for all the time that you've been in NetSuite, it's a personal favorite of mine because we still, to this day, we have clients that either come to us or that we work with on a routine basis, and we'll sometimes get, and what's this payments menu up
Yeah.
here? And that payments module is it allows you the ability to get ACH information from either your customers or
Mm.
your vendors, because it works on both sides. But what it will do is allow you to simultaneously pay a vendor bill and generate a vendor bill payment record, and also create an ACH file or an EFT file. I'll interchange some words here, but it's a file that's encrypted with your bank's information, your vendor's bank information. And when you send that over to the bank can then just pay your vendor. And then conversely, it works for customer payments as well. So the payments module not only does that and has that process built in, it also has positive pay, so you can generate a positive pay file.
Mhm.
And there's some ease of use there, right? So a lot of folks that I run into, and as a team we run into, are managing that outside of NetSuite, and that feature, once they know about it, it's just a light bulb on situation, and then
Mhm.
it takes very little to configure it, very little to get your ACH information from your vendors if you're going to use it for payments. And then start generating again simultaneously, so you don't have to go in and create your vendor bill payment records in mass or individually like you may be doing it. When you generate that ACH file, it'll do that for you, for those vendors that you're paying, and then you just submit that to the bank and they'll pay. So I really like that. It's underappreciated or underutilized. Here's one thing: the payment.
Let me interject real quick and ask you something. Because it's underutilized, do you think that's because I know we do a lot of service where maybe somebody was implemented somewhere else and we take it? Why do you think this is missed? I'm just asking an honest question. Should this be something pointed out when implementation, or is it why is it a hidden gem? Why isn't it just something that people know about?
Good point. I mean, it is circumstantial. We have clients, when we do implementations, they may choose that is something that they would like to, in a phase 2 scenario, implement. They might have relationships currently with their vendors that would yield them getting the ACH file. Even those are fairly simple processes. Some of my clients give this scenario, we'll, if our vendors want to get paid, then they'll use ACH, and they let them know, right, that they need to use ACH and send that information over. Others just need to build the process and make sure they train on it in NetSuite. So that's sometimes a later thing, a phase 2 of an implementation. And then, over time, it kind of gets forgotten. But we also do have services clients that come to us that we didn't implement, and they just hadn't known about it. And it's an easy thing to ignore, I think, because you have your day-to-day functional area that you're in NetSuite, and you're just working to get that stuff done, kind of ignoring that payments menu. So if you have it, great, explore it. And if you have questions about it, reach out. We can help you get set up, and it's fairly straightforward.
I have a
Go
question
ahead,
too.
Jonathan. Did
And
I
actually,
answer
I
your
think
question?
no, I think we'll see, but I think it will go towards like people who may not be utilizing it, because it's like, you're storing sensitive data in there, right? So like how does NetSuite, have that ACH information that you would use to help automate that? Like, and what security, right? That's sensitive banking information. And so how can you kind of like have people like have trust, or what do you do to make sure that that information is secure?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question too. So we have built upon the payments module based on compliance needs that our clients have. Um,
Mm.
and that's really good that you bring up, Ikra, because we have some clients that have been frauded internally. And good prevails. So it's not like I'm painting this really negative picture but clients have had a bad
Mhm.
situation, and they've asked us, how can we better protect ourselves? Using the payments module also has the ability to put in a multi-tier approval process, both on who
Oh,
is
nice.
approving and for what amounts, before those vendor bills get paid, before that ACH file gets
Yeah.
generated, so it's loaded to the bank. One extra layer that we have added onto that is to allow a notification to somebody in the
Nice.
company when an ACH payment information changes on a vendor record, and then prevent that vendor from
Mm.
being paid until it has the proper oversight so that they can then use that. So yeah,
That's
there's
really
security
cool.
pieces that we've put in there, and it's I think
two-factor authorization.
I know.
Right.
Well, I mean, we live in a
Right.
day that's tech, you know what I mean? Everything is technology associated with it.
Yeah.
We always hear about those data breaches. So, I mean, I thought that's
It's
really
it's
cool.
nice, honestly, just being pinged sometimes. Like I have that with if anybody runs my credit, and we
Yeah.
actually bought a car recently, and when I had a credit run, I was literally, my phone went ping, and I looked and saw someone just ran your credit, and I was like,
In real
thank you.
time.
Yeah, I literally just
Yeah.
wanted to know that. So, Travis, that was awesome.
Yeah.
What else you got, my friend? I know you have lots of these gems. We want to hear them.
Well, the other one, Jonathan and Ikra, that we were talking about the other day that I'll expand on, just more in the realms of the reconciliation process. NetSuite offers that native reconciliation process that gives you the ability to use your bank's data. Now, there's a couple options to bring that bank data into NetSuite. Excuse me. And what it is you could manually go to the bank, download a file, and import that in via CSV process. Then when you go to the reconciliation match bank data page, you have your transactions in NetSuite, and then you have the transactions from your bank, and you can set up a series of rules that will help you automate that matching, right, based on vendor amounts, and let NetSuite do the majority of that heavy lifting. Really, at the end of the day, all that should be left over is a few transactions that you have to go in and manually match up because they're awkward, right? And there wasn't a match for those. Now, the flip side of that importing process is to use bank feeds, and that also is available in your instance to use. Now, NetSuite publishes a list of supported institutions, and if you're on there,
it's a long list.
Great, yeah, it is. It is a long list, but it's great because it gives you a reference. And then what happens is, if you're not already familiar with bank feeds, is connect it to the bank. Bank feeds will synchronize that data to NetSuite once a day, so you don't have to. And again, they end up as transactions in the matched bank data page, and it'll do the majority of the work for you. And you can continue to expand it, right? Build rules. So it's a process that will happen automatically. And then what's left over for you to get into the reconciliation process is a few that are left unmatched, and then match them and move forward. But the bank feeds option is again, we have that or NetSuite publishes, that the financial institutions. But let me tell you one thing on that, and it was born out of this previous conversation with Ikra the other day, is do you have to follow that list? No, you don't. We have clients that don't have their financial institution on that list. However, it's worth a shot to try, or call your bank and let them know what you're doing. Maybe they have to flip a switch on something so that data can synchronize in. So we do have some clients that their financial institution isn't on the list, but it works, and it has been, once they get it connected. So then again, bank feeds means that it's automatically synchronizing their bank accounts, the ones they choose. You might have a bank with 19 accounts. You might only choose 5 to synchronize with the accounts in NetSuite based on your processes, but that data will come in once a day, and you can reconcile once a day. That's the key, right? Staying on top of your reconciliation processes, so at month end, you're not just swamped with all that activity.
Yeah. No, that sounds really cool. And does NetSuite's bank feed like integration, or even just like the importing bank transactions, like allow you to kind of create those like one-off transactions, like those like uh bank service charges, things that you may not regular like in that process already?
Yeah. You know what,
Yeah, that's
Ikra?
pretty
Good.
cool.
I'm glad you reminded me of this, because there is also the
Yeah.
automated cash app, and rarely does
Oh,
anybody ask about it or possibly use it. I'm of the opinion they don't use it because they don't really
they
know,
don't know.
understand it, or know it's there, right?
Yeah.
An automatic cash app is part of the reconciliation process. So
Mm.
if you have, when your bank's data is into NetSuite, whether you manually brought it in or use bank feeds, there are transactions from the bank that the automated cash app can recognize, and it will actually generate a transaction. And again, it's doing some thinking for you. You can set up rules so it will help you in those transactions, but it could create automatically the transactions that you actually don't have in NetSuite yet, but it resided at the bank. Automated cash app can help you do that, and they'll end up in the reconciliation page to be reconciled. Again, less work that you have to do once your bank's data is over. So that's a great area. And so just to recap, Ikra, we talked about the reconciliation process, the bank feeds, that's automated, and then automated cash app, which is part of the reconciliation process. If you're not using those, why not? Right?
Yeah. Call Travis is what I'm hearing.
Right.
Well, Travis, I mean, thanks for sharing all of these so far. What else? I mean, honestly, I'm sure people are dying to know more. I know I am. So, what else do you have for us?
Oh, let's see here. Okay,
Arsenal.
let's talk. Yeah, right. Let's talk about advanced PDFs. Typically, a system will be implemented with the basic PDF functionality. And when I talk about PDFs, I'm really talking about customer-facing documents or vendor-facing. NetSuite gives you a very basic template that you can change your name and maybe add a logo. When you save, for instance, a sales order or an invoice, these are just some examples, right? You can have NetSuite on that transaction automatically send it to your customer. So they're getting an email with a PDF in it, and it's basic. Well, in NetSuite, they have advanced PDFs. So when we do an implementation, our typical go-to is just to start the client off immediately with an advanced PDF. That way, there doesn't have to be a whole bunch of rework later, because basic PDFs, they don't give you the flexibility to manipulate and add actual logic to them, but the advanced PDF forms do. So if you would like, a certain logo in a certain place and more configuration with the lines and the information, and even logic that says, like, if this customer, then add a certain message at the bottom of the invoice or the sales order that they're receiving, you have the autonomy to do that with an advanced PDF. And so I think that that's an area, just so that everybody's aware, there's basic and advanced PDF forms. And I think at one time they were thinking about sunsetting the basic ones. We haven't seen that yet, but the advanced, as you get the gist here, give you way more flexibility to create and design those customer vendor-facing documents. Yeah.
Nice. But before you share your next one, let me insert something in too. Listeners, as you're hearing these, and you might be saying, "Oh my gosh, I know one." If you're a experienced NetSuite user, so please make note of these. We want to hear these. This comment section can be very powerful. Please share the wealth here. That's what we're here to do. So chime in. We'd love to hear from you all. That being said, Travis, I know you've got more. Please.
Sure. The returns management portion of NetSuite is one that, when we were talking earlier, is or maybe less used or unknown to use. It's very simple when you have a client to call in and say, "Hey, I want to return something, or I want a credit for this." It happens, but the RMA portion of NetSuite is there to help you handle both bringing that inventory back into NetSuite if it's a tangible good and you are having it returned, and then also providing an avenue to credit that client and control the mechanism in the process in which you're providing the credit. I started saying it's easy. You could just, okay, yes, thank you, customer, and then issue a credit memo in NetSuite. However, the RMA processes allows you some control over receiving that inventory back in, acknowledging that it is back in the system from the customer, then issuing a credit. And all those are downstream records of the sales order, fulfillment, and invoice records. That's after the fact that you can actually do a returns and do the returns management process within NetSuite. We get a lot of questions from our clients that do utilize the modules, and sometimes they just end up finding that it's someone might find that it's easier to do a credit memo, but they miss the opportunity to work with their inventory as well in that process. So RMAs in NetSuite is I think, a less utilized area that actually is better to use because it's very efficient to transact and then communicate with your customer on that return and credit process. Yeah.
To your hunting comment that you had killed two birds with one stone. I don't know.
Nice.
Right?
That's very punny.
Right. I pride myself on being punny. No. But I do have a question on the RMA stuff. Like, does NetSuite have the ability to kind of create, like, RMA rules by the customer, or, like, maybe, I don't know if there's, like, the different type of item, or right? I mean, you have a really particular customer, right? Like a really
Yeah,
important customer.
yeah.
Can you customize,
You
personalize
can.
it to you?
You can, and there are several scenarios. We could just pull one off the top. If it's a certain client that the customer who's using NetSuite has a relationship with, that is, it could be many scenarios, but I'm just explaining this one as an example. Maybe there's a relationship there
Mm-hmm.
long term when that customer has a return process that they want to follow. You can create conditions, triggered
Nice.
events that might yield to some other types of communication out to that customer of theirs, or something to happen and occur in NetSuite that might need some automation around it. Yeah, so absolutely, you can do that. And if right, you've been working in NetSuite, and just so everybody knows, and you may already know, ICRA is on a different ERP platform,
Mm-hmm.
not related to NetSuite. So when she asks these questions, they're great questions because she doesn't know
Yeah.
necessarily how NetSuite works, but she does know how Acumatica works. So it's still in
Mm-hmm.
that ERP realm, and NetSuite's highly customizable and gives you options to do things like that, ICRA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, Travis, because good reminder.
Mhm.
Those who have been with us on the earlier podcast know Icarus doesn't just know Acumatica, she knows Acumatica,
Yeah.
and she implements it all the time. She's literally an Acumatica MVP. And this podcast being all things NetSuite and Acumatica, one thing I really like is Icarus questions are coming as someone who honestly doesn't know NetSuite, but knows ERP. So thank you for that, Ikra.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's where I'm not trying to just poke questions or anything. Like, I just want to know. And that's why I really just enjoy talking to you, Travis, because I feel like I could just throw questions at you and you're like, yeah, this is how
Yeah.
you do it. You have answers for everything, and
Well,
I love it.
and it's good for people that might be checking out. Hey, isn't NetSuite a good answer for me? Because in all honesty, we think there's sometimes there's different fits for different people, and that's why it's good to explore these solutions as well as others. And for those that are kind of checking this out, and for those who are existing users, Travis, I think you're giving us some good stuff here. Now, I don't
Yeah.
want to be I don't want to be too greedy, but what else you got?
Cache 360 came out a while ago,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I appreciate it. It continues to evolve in a good way, and I think
Mhm.
that if you have an opportunity and you haven't yet, just check out Cache 360. NetSuite's giving you the ability to put in a budget, and you have
Mm.
options on how those numbers look. You could really seed it. You can seed it with the data that's already in NetSuite. But for instance, if Jonathan and I are working on a project and ICRA needs some oversight on that particular budget model, she's going to tell us, look, it's not here yet, but it's going to be about $150,000 that we need to account for in either revenue or expense. We can put that into Cache 360 and forecast out, on a 3-6, whatever you decide, and see what your numbers look like and how your financials are going to measure up in that Cache 360 module. So it's pretty neat, and you get trend graphs and different kinds of graphs that you can select from, and whatever means you want that artwork to look like when you're reporting on financials. But Cache 360 allows you to do that, and in a moment's just look, once it's configured, and it doesn't take long. Just so you know, these are like mini benefits to using Cache 360 is you can be up and fast in a matter of minutes to show what it looks like on your revenue and expense side. So what you're forecasting, you might have some big projects coming down the pipe.
Mhm.
You might already have some, and maybe you find out that, or you already know, maybe things are going to be getting tight. What does the forecast look like? Use Cache 360 to just show your team, and have those discussions internally. So there's a lot more transparency that you can get with your Cache 360 without having to go into a whole bunch of financial models and modeling
Mm.
with the actual budgets portion of NetSuite. In addition to just the financial reporting, Cache 360 is a nice little compartmentalized area that you can utilize in that regard for reporting.
Travis, do most of people here who are existing NetSuite users have Cache 360? Is that one of those that just comes with it?
Yeah, it does come with it. And so similar to the payments module, you can just start using it.
Core functionality.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
It's a nice,
nice. That's
nice
nice.
You
aspect to
said
it.
something, Jonathan, just now that just kind of like I thought of something on the Acumatica side, and I think Travis, it's come up with us before too. So it just kind of be
Okay.
interesting if you think this is one of those underrated features. But like barcode scanning, I know it's come up with just my conversations with
Mhm.
the distribution industry and just poking questions at you all the time. But like could you tell us a little bit about what NetSuite does for barcoding and how it is like really one of those features that people don't even know is there, or they can do it as simple as you explained it to me last time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. We have done so NetSuite natively doesn't, and it depends. So let me preface it this way. Depending on your licensing that you have for NetSuite, we
Mm.
we do
Mhm.
have clients that will come to us and they don't have a module that does the barcode scanning just out of the box. However, we can write a customization for that, and that's not particularly really what I want to focus on because there's a lot of low hanging items that we're talking about in this podcast. But what I want to bring up really is if you're using manufacturing mobile, you really have the opportunity to just get set up with devices and immediately start scanning in and items into say a work order. So there are options there, and that's a customizable area as well. But out of the box with manufacturing mobile, you can do the scanning. Otherwise, we've worked on several projects that really put us in a position to do barcode scanning with a customization, and that's an option where you're not paying long-term licensing for that. It just depends on
Mhm.
what you want to do. An example of that would be we have folks who use what's called a Kaizen process, and they're out in their inventory, out in their warehouse, scanning inventory. What they'll do is they'll take the scanned file and load it into NetSuite, and we've created a process that automatically creates purchase orders based on the preferred vendor. So it's just an ease of use process that we've implemented, but it is barcode scanning.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be one of those little fancy, like, zebra skin. I don't know what they're called. Don't ask me, guys. Okay.
No, you're
Don't
right.
ask me.
You're right.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's like it could be barcoding through like a printed form almost, right? It just sounds like you're just
Yeah.
uploading it. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's just like, creating your own like little barcoding language.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's a low hanging fruit item too, right? You can customize NetSuite to feed that information in, and barcodes, it's technology. You don't have to do
Hmm.
double entry to get it into
Yeah.
NetSuite. You can have the
Yeah,
devices do that
that's
for you.
where error happens. I mean, you're cutting down on error. You're getting rid of manual processes. That's always good. Always
Yeah.
Yeah.
good. Well, Travis, man, we really appreciate the time you spent. This is good. I'm sure there's even more. So again, I just I throw this out to you that are listening. If you, as he was talking, maybe something triggered in your mind where, oh my gosh, I remember when I discovered this, or here's one that we use all the time that might even come core, or it might be something where you add a module. Let us know. Chime in on the comments. We love hearing this stuff. But Travis, man, thank you. You
Yeah.
literally, you are a resource. Iker was, not exaggerating when she says, if we have if I have an issue, and she does,
All the
she
time.
calls, she calls Travis, and we love that about you, Travis. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that wealth with us on ERP on tap. That's huge. We appreciate you.
You know what?
Yeah.
And I will tell you, because Iker said the other day, you got to talk about analytics. And I didn't mention that yet, but just know everybody has the ability to access analytics
Ooh,
in
a
NetSuite.
bonus one. Go
Yeah.
for it. Slip it in there.
Yeah, and that's it. Just jump in there. They just recently allowed the analytics to be able to do a pivot table right out of NetSuite. So
Mm.
if a save search isn't working for you, if that builder reporting mechanism isn't working for you, jump into analytics. And it is a little bit more complex and technical, but if you need some help, give us a
You have a
call. We can help you
Travis.
out.
If you
Yeah,
have a Travis.
yeah,
That's right.
right.
That's it.
You
No,
guys
that's
are great,
good,
but
Travis.
I
No,
appreciate you. Thank you.
no, we appreciate you. And for those of you who've been listening to us at ERP on Tap, thank you so much for joining us. I encourage you to click that like or that subscribe button so that way you'll get more of these conversations here in the future. And Travis, we know that you even have, you do some of our webinars. You've got a recent webinar that we're really
Yeah,
excited about as well that we will put
Shelley's coming
down.
up.
Yeah. We'll put that. We'll put a link to it down in the notes below. But again, thanks for being here with us. We appreciate you.
Yeah,
And
thank you
listeners,
both.
thank you. and make sure that you join us again next time on ERP on Tap.